Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's very difficult topic of microaggression. I'm Kelly Meyer and I'm the president of Kelly Meyer Training Solutions. I'd like to ask you, is the term microaggression familiar to you? You may have heard it, but you may not know what it means. It's a statement, an incident, an action of discrimination that is oftentimes unintentional, possibly deliberate, most of the time unintentional, and it's against a marginalized group in society. Let's think about some actions that we may have that are slightly deliberate, not necessarily intentionally negative towards someone, but think about the times that you have parked your car and saw a group of people on one side of the street that you decided, because of them, you would walk on the other side of the street. What did they look like? Think about that. Almost all of us have done that. Are there groups of people or individuals that when you walk past them, you clutch your purse, you secure your wallet, you look around for other people? Who do we pass if we're just driving through a neighborhood, or we're parked in the grocery store parking lot, or somebody walks past our car and we lock our doors? Even if we have automatic locks, we'll even take that extra measure to lock our car doors. What gave us that reasoning for doing that? The elevator doors open and we see who's on it and we say, I think I'll take the next car. Now, some of these may be little protective barriers that we've told ourselves that we need to do. But why do these exist? Do these exist because we really need that protection? Or do these exist because we don't understand the cultures of the folks before us? We have a hard time when people are different than we are. And why is that? Throughout the rest of this course, we will be examining microaggressions that may not be intentional. Our intent does not match with our desired outcomes. We're about to take a look at those right now, and we'll start with our first video.
You're Black. You've seen Black Panther, right? I just saw Black Panther and I loved it. I mean, the cultural heritage, of your culture, and just, the hair was kind of like, curly like yours and everything. And they were just so gorgeous. And there was that scene on the mountain when they were like, I don't even know, it was like, it really moved me, and I really appreciated the artistic, direction that they went with that. So it was good. You've seen it, right?
Did that scenario make you feel uncomfortable? I was certainly uncomfortable watching it. Could you see microaggression throughout the video? Remember back in our definition, we said these are unintentional acts of discrimination. Could you see that? Our coworker, our talker, did she wait for any response in engaging her fellow coworker? And when she did, what about the references that she made? She talked about the culture in the movie. Well, while that culture was inspired by many cultures, we're talking about a fictional country. So when we say your culture, how could that be my culture? Could you see why the other coworker in that with those particular words could feel very, very uncomfortable? Also, then she made a personal reference, most likely to really bring in her fellow coworker and engage her in the conversation. But when she personalized it, said, curly hair just like yours. We're really focused on our differences and pulling out our differences instead of trying to find a commonality. It was very hurtful to the coworker who was our non-talker, who didn't say a word throughout. And what words could she say? Assumptions were made that how do you say, no, not me, when you've just personalized it and you just said, curly hair, just like yours, your culture. How do I convince you that's not me? That's not who I am if you're saying things like that directly to me and bringing me into the story. And finally, didn't even know if I had seen the movie. So you can certainly see the discomfort, the discrimination felt, the microaggression toward the one coworker who didn't speak, and the unintentional but kind of severe consequences for our talker. We have to take a moment now to reflect our own actions and to say how, if we were in those scenarios, how could we have done it better? What do we do in the workplace to say, how do we create understanding, bonding, just cultural awareness overall? But how do we start that conversation? What are those words that we use? Could we have started with, hey, do you like movies? Have you seen the movie Black Panther? Could we have waited for that answer? If not, our conversation might have been engaged going down another path where we did have something in common, where we did bond. But we personally have to take stock of what we saw, realize every aspect of what a microaggression entails, and strive to be better ourselves. These conversations in the workplace hopefully will cease with a better understanding of each other. Let's see our next scenario.
Hello. So nice to meet you. We're good here. There's nothing we need to discuss, so all good to go.
Well, actually, I have some questions.
Oh, okay. Hello. How are you? I'm Dr. Johnson. Are you on Medicaid?
The scenarios that we just observed showed two very different actions. One with a patient who is professionally dressed, and one with a patient who is casually dressed. Let's talk about what happened in our first scenario. Our patient was dismissed. Why? And you say, I have no idea. Why would we do that to any patient? We shouldn't. Sometimes when we see a suit, we see that equals professionalism. We see that equals intelligence. We see, oh, well, you should know all the answers. You're here, and so obviously you have no questions. Maybe there's another version of that where, well, I'm the doctor, and clearly you're in a suit and you're smart enough. So, what, you have questions? I just told you what you need to do. What were those assumptions? What did we hear? What did we see? But what did the patient feel? What do you mean? I'm just telling you. I'm paying you. I'm paying you for your time. I'm paying you for your expertise. Let's look at how we address if we're changing and creating an inclusive culture. Do we have a set standard of questions that we ask and always ask in the same way to each and every one of our clients? But how did that client feel? As we review, again, our definition of a microaggression, how could that patient feel discrimination? Why didn't that client receive all of the service delivery? Now let's look at our other client. Let's look at our casually dressed client. That person may suit up every single day, may have such a high-powered job, but you know what? I didn't feel well. That's why I went to the doctor. So I didn't feel like dressing up. I was lucky to bathe before I came to you because I don't feel well. So just because I'm dressed casually and comfortably, and what if it's an instance that you might ask me to remove my clothing? I need that to be comfortable and easy access. So why on earth would you discount anyone? But the question, that very question, why did the white clinician ask the black patient, are you on Medicaid? No one in that position should be made to feel uncomfortable, little, like they're not worthy. Medicaid means I need help. I need subsistence to live. That's what that equates to. Let's only ask that question at appropriate times. If every single person is asked that question at intake, if it's on their chart, if we're confirming something, that is absolutely appropriate. And it is a good question to ask, and we want to be paid. So we want to know that answer. But assuming that a person of color in casual clothing in your office is on Medicaid, that's the wrong assumption to make. We need to have set standards, set practices. When we hire people to be our clinicians, to be our case managers, to be anyone who works in our facility, from even the person who mops the floor, what is our standard of interaction with each of our patients? Do we require a smile? Golly, you may be the only smile that they get, so why not put it out there? Every single action, every single thing that we do needs to be standardized across our organization. Like, that is just the way we do business. And that's not what we saw in these scenarios. We saw two people being treated very differently in these scenarios, and neither one with a level that I would call the gold standard of service. Okay, close your eyes for a moment, keep them wide open. But what would you consider the gold standard of service? When you go for a doctor's visit, how would you like that to go? So let's start with somebody calling you and reminding you. Hello, Mrs. Meyer. How are you today? We can't wait to see you on Tuesday. We have you down for 11 a.m. Looking forward to your visit. You welcomed me. You made me feel good about coming because I might be nervous about coming. So I get that very special welcome. So then when I came to the facility, was I greeted with a smile then, or did they have to finish their conversation first instead of acknowledging me? How long did I have to wait at a window or at a door to get someone to acknowledge me? How was I acknowledged? What is that standard that you say must occur in your facility? Mrs. Meyer, so glad to see you today. Now, I may be very, very, very ill, and you may not, I may not be. We're going to temper that with why I'm coming to see you, but you know what and how I should be greeted. So now, if there is a series of questions or things or information that needs to happen on the next step of my journey, that needs to be standard for everyone. We need to ask those questions at the same time, at the same point of intake, at the same place on our way, so that, you know what, it is a perfect, friendly exchange between our clinician or whomever we're there to see and ourselves, the patients, throughout the whole process. And that should be the same for every single individual. So quite frankly, our clinicians should be acting just almost like drones, but in a very, very positive way, because we have this system down so well. And I don't mean that exactly as a drone, because we want that to be great communication, but we want it to just roll off in a perfected hello. How are you today? Now, let's take that a step further when people leave. If they're leaving our office and we say to them, no matter who they are, well, you know what, you get a good night's sleep tonight, and you're going to feel better, or you get a good night's sleep tonight and we'll see you on Tuesday, or think of what our next words are. Because what if we just had a wonderful interaction with that person? What if it's the reverse? And then we said something like that and this person didn't have a bed. So as we're considering our social determinants of health, as we are also considering the health of our patients, let's ask the next question too. So let's don't be presumptive on the front end. And let's ask that next question, how are you living? What can we do to make that better for you? What are those next steps? And let's build that into the culture of our organization. And let's truly help each and every one of our patients. And whatever that standard is, that when you closed your eyes and said, that's what I want for me, that's what we want for each and every one of our clients. We cannot dismiss. We have discriminated against. We've dismissed someone. We didn't give them the quality of care they deserved. If we looked at the way they were dressed and we said, no, that just won't do. So you don't deserve this level of care. Yes, every patient who walks in your door deserves that same level of care. Let's take the time. Let's take the energy. Let's plan out exactly what we want to say. And let's do it in a very positive way and make people who are not feeling well feel a whole lot better when they leave. Let's watch our next scenario.
Hey, Dr. Henry, I have a patient concern. What's it like to shop on food stamps? I've never experienced that before, so I figured you might have some knowledge in that area. Dr. Henry, I'm researching the difficulties of applying and getting on SNAP and WIC, for my patient. Have you had to walk a patient through this before?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I have some thoughts I could share with you on that.
Okay, I thought so.
We just saw two versions of essentially the same question. Did we ask it the same way? Did you see microaggressions in both versions? In the first version, where were the microaggressions? What did we see? We saw a white clinician somewhat assuming that our black clinician knew the food stamp process. In the second scenario, why did the white clinician ask the black clinician if they had ever walked anyone through the SNAP process? Were there other clinicians they could have asked the same thing? And sometimes is that a question for the clinician? Or is that really somebody else who has far more expertise in walking someone through that SNAP process? So why was that person asked? Was that the appropriate person to be asked in each question? Why did we feel that was their level of expertise? And the answer to the why may have been a microaggression. We made an assumption. We had an unintended assumption, an unintended action to get our answer. We need to think those things through as we go through. You're both doctors. You've both been through med school. How do you make that assumption for someone else? Let's compare this scenario to the last set of scenarios where we had our professionally dressed patient and we had our casually dressed patient. There, we had a microaggression that was the absence of words versus a microaggression in which we asked an inappropriate question. So not everything is a verbalized statement. Now here, while our question in this particular set of scenarios, while we wanted an answer and we saw two versions, one far better than the other one, we still have to ask ourselves, why did we go to that clinician specifically to ask that question? Was there perhaps someone better qualified to answer that question with their expertise versus what we perceived? Let's take a look at another scenario.
Hi, I'm Dr. Henry. It's so good to meet you. I'm so happy to be your primary care physician and that you're here with our practice. So just to start off, do you have any questions?
Is there another physician I could see?
No, I'm the only one scheduled today. I'd be happy to help you.
I'll need to reschedule.
I'm sure this scenario inspired many reactions from all of you. When we take a look at this scenario, though, is it an easy one to analyze? We certainly see microaggression. But did we see the catalyst for the microaggression? I don't believe that we did. So we have to delve a little bit further to just know what honestly was going on with our patient. We have to remember first and foremost that when people are sick, they are at their most vulnerable. They feel powerless. They feel worthless. And you know what? They also get very, very cranky. So let's kind of go to visit our processes for a moment and then cycle back to this presentation. Remember when I said, oh, what is our standard of calling our patients ahead of time? Mrs. Meyer, we can't wait to see you on Tuesday at 11. I'm so looking forward to it. What if you also told me, hey, and why don't you write out a few questions that you might have for the doctor? You know, we might be a little chatty when we're here, and if we go a little off topic, we want to make sure we answer all of your questions. So what if I did that and I brought it in and then I'm just miserable and I'm cranky? But you have my questions, so you get to see a little bit of discovery. You might see a little bit of the catalyst to my behavior. If we assumed that the patient didn't want that doctor because of color, was that a little bit of an added layer of microaggression there? Did we assume the right thing? So as we look at microaggression, I also hope that it has us intuitively looking to see, are there other layers? What is the catalyst for a certain behavior? Are we making assumptions that we shouldn't be making? This was certainly a very disturbing scenario, and it's sad that we weren't able to fill the needs of the client, and whatever the client was feeling toward the physician was unwarranted. She was obviously willing and able to help. So again, being in the human being business is very, very tough business. I applaud each and every one of you for the job that you do, because it is not an easy job. But if we can certainly identify a lot of the the things that we talked about today, if we can make improvements along the way with our levels of communication and our interactions with folks, maybe the question is, what do you do? And the person answers with something that is of no interest to you. So if you ask a third question, does this sound like an interrogation? Does it sound like, does it sound friendly anymore? So how do we create good bonding time among our coworkers? How do we do that in the workplace? Can we do that with some good team building exercises? Can we bring people together? Can we think in terms now of inclusion instead of diversity? Let's not highlight those differences. Let's highlight how we can bring people together and the culture that we want to create in our workplace. If we create the opportunity for us to get to know our coworkers better, we're not challenged by those awkward moments of we just really hurt somebody's feelings because we didn't know. Let's make all of our words as important as I love you. Let's practice, let's take a breath, and let's work together as a team to come up with better solutions so that we can avoid the awkward moments like we just saw.